So, how's it going, everybody? Been a little while since the last video, but meant to get a deck stage recorded this week. Probably will go up. I don't know. I'll record on Friday probably. Usually, I don't like doing stuff that covers like breaking news, things that just happened, because I feel like seeing like, oh, card of the week. It's like you talk about one card. It just doesn't seem as important without like full context of a set. A card like Griever that was shown off very early didn't mean a lot until we saw the Ultimecia later on, for example. But in this case, the card of the week was explaining the entire limit break mechanic, which is a brand new mechanic coming to Final Fantasy TCG. And I'm really interested in it, and I want to talk about it. So, what is limit break? Limit break is going to be effectively a side deck or an extra deck. These are cards that are in a separate pool that you can cast at any time using the CP cost in the top left corner. So in Zac, it's 3 including 1 fire CP, just as if you're casting the card from your hand. However, they are cast from your limit break deck, and to cast them, you have to flip other cards in your limit break deck face up. In Zac's case, you have to flip 1 card. For Victoria, you have to flip 2, and for Ace, you have to flip 3. And to say that this is not borderline broken is false. This is really, really good. This is about as strong as you can get for a mechanic. I know a lot of people they mention, oh, Zac is a lot better than he reads. I think they literally use the word mid in their description of Zac. Um, yeah, well, 3 damage may seem mid. You can aim for the most effective timing. So these are cards that exist outside of your hand. There's no timing window. There's no decision. There's no you can't make your opponent discard these cards. For example, if for some reason you had no backups or all your backups were frozen and you draw 2 cards, you can cast a 2 CP forward, or you can cast a 4 CP limit break. This is massive. Like I said, it completely changes the way you have to think about every single card in your deck, what these lead to allow you to do, so on and so forth. I think it's exciting. I know there's a lot. This kind of has mixed reception, but I like the ability to toolbox and make decisions based on that. I actually really like the fact that you do have to make decisions. And granted, some decks aren't going to have very difficult ones. Maybe if you're in a fire deck, you can cast Zac twice, and then the other fire one, and the other cards in your break deck are just there to be flipped to pay for those 2, right? But for a lot of other decks, this is going to lead to decision making. Say I'm in a Earth deck with Tyro or Shantoto. I could theoretically run Victoria as a 4 CP. You can, first of all, you can slash 2 CP off the cost of all these cards because you don't have a card in hand. Victoria costs as much to cast as a 2 CP forward does. Zac costs the amount that a 3 CP forward does. Ace costs the same as a 6 CP forward. But you could run Victoria now as a 7k kill spell as a 2 CP, effectively a 2 CP forward that you can cast at any time. This is so strong. I can't believe how strong these are for the first wave. I know that someone's like, why would you ever pay 3 CP for a 7k? You're not paying 3 CP. You're paying 1 CP, getting a 3k ping and a 7k body attached to it. Couple of interesting caveats to LB cards. They do not go to the break zone. They go to the break zone, and then there's kind of a hidden text on LB cards that says, if this card would leave the field, it is returned to the limit break deck face up instead. So when you cast the Zac for 1, you flip 1 card in your limit break deck, you cast your Zac. Zac dies, maybe he gets Amaterasu'd, he will attempt to go to the break zone. Once he's in the break zone, the game state will realize the limit break card left the field, and it will move it back to the limit break deck. So it's still anything that says when a forward goes to the break zone, or is removed from the game, or returned to hand, that's all going to trigger. It's just going to also be overridden by the replacement effect. These can't exist anywhere except for on the field or in the limit break deck. I'm excited, honestly. So I mentioned to a friend, and he immediately messaged me because I had said for a long time there was no way to trade up into Rufus. Rufus cannot be traded up effectively into. Victoria trades up effectively into Rufus. She's a 2 CP forward that kills Rufus. Uh, is that going to be enough on its own? Probably not, but it's a really nice effect to have. Ace seems to be giving the idea that like Mono Win could now have access to a board wipe out of nowhere. 8 CP is a lot, especially a conditional board wipe. You do need to actually get the characters down. But he does also like generate card advantage over time. Like Mono Win decks are going to play this absolutely. And it does mean that a lot of things that people don't realize are sneaky good against Wind, things like Mist Dragon when the Azura to try to get the Luso back to hand or the Summon back to hand. Sometimes you can't afford either the mental space or the draws off of the 3 Chocobo casts and the Luso and everything else. Ace can kind of just checkmate games. I think he actually is going to play better than he reads to people that. It's funny because anybody that doesn't play Win or like aren't like super competitive or don't know a lot about like how Win plays will read this card and think it's insane, and I think the people that like know how Win plays and think will think it's like okay, like it's fine. Truth is probably somewhere in between. I think that there is definitely potential in a card that just says tap 4 backups, pitch 2 cards from hand. Here's a recurring value piece that also wipes your opponent's field, right? And then lastly, the one that I'm actually the most excited for, this is very stupid, is Zach. I think Zach is like, this is a custom card. So the fair uses, right? A deck like 6, by necessity, must have 50 Category 6 cards in the main deck. No more, no less. If you do anything else, there's a good chance you're going to whiff on your lock trigger, right? Well, Zach is not in the main deck, so when you cast him, or like when you cast, you can't hit Zach on accident. Zach now is a 3 CP way to round up Sabin Pings. Really, really good. The other thing about Zach, and maybe this becomes less of an issue because other cards like Victoria exist to counter this, so I don't know how well this exists in a vacuum. Let's do. I'm gonna pull up my old Cloudpod deck. Cloudpod's thing traditionally has been that it's a 2 or 3 card combo to get off the ground. You need to get the Jesse back up, you need to get the Cloud in hand, and then you also need like a Barret or something. Zach allows you to condense all of that into being a 1 card. This will work. So let's say I take my Cloudpod list. Let's say I just have 3 copies of Zach and a bunch of like filler chaff in the extra. And we're going to pretend that this Jesse is the searcher and none of the other cards in my hand have any text. So I could go this and this, play the 3 CP Jesse that searches for FF7 character, search PodCloud, and then we're going to go ahead and just immediately cast PodCloud. So we go to the next turn. And we're going to pretend we have an extra fire card, right? We can go pitch, Zach, Cloud, sacrifice the Zach. Let's go ahead and get the... Do I not have her in here? Okay, Rosa. Rosa activates Cloud. Tap, pitch, play a second Zach from our deck. Pod that. And we have Rosa Warrior of Light on turn 2. And again, this is like very basic things that like you could conceivably see happen. I know that like the idea of, oh, well, Cloud on tapping is already like an FTK. But there's a difference between having Cloud untapping, and Cloud is now a one card combo. Going even further, let's say we go another turn. We can go this and this. Uh, Play another Zac, sack the Zac. Go get um, like a, you know, say we get a Rufus out of the deck, right? Rosa untacks Cloud. We sack the Rufus after making our opponent discard. We get a Yuffie. Yuffie untaps the Cloud, and then we can do it all over again, right? You start to really see how much this snowballs, and it's all enabled by the fact that we have these 3 FF7 characters in our deck that, like, we don't have to draw, we don't have to search, we don't do anything with them, we just need them to do things. So I'm a little scared. I think this has a mechanic that, like, we're basically going to start playing Final Fantasy TCG version 3 now. If Chapters was version 1 and TCG is version 2. But I think it's exciting. I think there's a lot of, like, really interesting design space they can go here. I know there's a lot of, like, hesitancy just given that, like, extra decks in card games are kind of controversial. I know, like, Companion in Magic was really broken, which obviously had a much higher deck building cost than this did. But I came from Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Extra decks are just a thing. It's like you have both engine pieces and generic cards in your extra deck, and it ends up being a really fun deck building, way to play. I actually really like some of the decision making that's going to go into this. There are going to be games that you'll probably lose because you used limit break cards too early and you can't cast, Ace, on turn 8, right? And similarly, there will be games that you lose because you didn't use your limit break deck effectively. So I'm excited. I think the mechanic has a lot of potential. Has a lot of negative potential too. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little scared about some of what this represents. Admittedly, Victoria and Ace don't have the same kind of potential as Zac does, but this shows some of what this could mean for the card game going forward, as far as what's good and what the smart things to do are. So keep an eye on this. I'll be back with a full set review when the set actually drops. But personally, I'm really excited. I think this has so much potential. And I honestly think it gives the potential to fix some of the issues with the game. I think Victoria, for example, is a great way to answer the current aggro meta we're in. Zac fixes one of the issues that 6 has and makes 6 potentially like a really cool deck again. I'm higher on Ace than I think most other good win players are, specifically because speaking from experience, Luso is not a perfect card. Having the ability to just say, okay, now your board is wiped, rather than jumping through the hoops for a Luso, could be really cool. So that's it. Looking forward to seeing more. Again, full set review coming up when we have the full set. Deck Sage will be out before the end of the week. If anybody's waiting on those, I think I've got at least 10 submissions right now. And yeah, take it easy, y'all.